Hello, Dr. Leo Kormanik with Running Rehab. Basically here we're going to go over some more hip mobility stuff. So with hip mobility drills for basically running, kind of the common principle is we want to keep the mobile joints mobile. So your shoulder is your most mobile joint, your hip is your second most mobile. So obviously your hip is critical with running to keep the mobility here. The problem that we a lot of times run into is what kind of mobility do we need? Which is really a pretty important question, because most people, like bell curve, most people sit in sort of the middle where they have basically equal internal external rotation, sort of an average hip if I'm laying on my back, external rotation, internal rotation might sit about 45 degrees. That would be a good arc window of movement. Some people, the motion is excessively pivoted in one direction versus the other. So if somebody's external rotation is excessive, but internal rotation is limited, basically that means they might have anteverted hips, they might have FAI, or acetabular impingement. In those cases, they want to really focus on stretches that are going to be like forcing a little bit more internal rotation, helping the ball move a little bit back into the socket. So your three-way hip opener, stuff like that, is going to be more of that. If somebody has excessive internal rotation and limited external rotation, which would be me, then you want to do something sort of like the stretches we're going to show you today. So my internal rotation is excessive here. So you can see I can easily bring my hip excessively internal or rotated this direction, right? So I have a retroverted pelvis. Opposite of that, where they're limited on internal rotation, but excessive and external, would be inverted pelvis, okay? So here, I can easily bring my leg into internal rotation. That's super comfortable, right? So my pelvis it's really good at that motion, but it's not great at external rotation. So a lot of times I'll get a lot of stuff down the side of the leg, but it's not because I have hip impingement. It's more because the backside of my socket is really exposed and I can really open up internal rotation. So it just changes the way the muscles are. Long story short, if your hips are tight and you have stuff kind of going down the leg, and you have this exercise is super easy for you going this direction, these are sort of the stretches you want to do. So we've seen these stretches before. Not everyone should do these, because say you have an inverted pelvis, first stretch would be a pigeon or a figure four. So say you have an inverted pelvis, you already easily come into external rotation this direction. So we don't really want to add that in. That's too excessive. So here, for me, this is actually tight. So what you're going to kind of do is you're going to bring your hand under and just kind of provide a little bit excess pressure in this direction. So simple figure four stretch. The magic with this is holding it for up to 2 minutes. And again, you're going to get a nice pull right down through there and basically just stretch up the backside of the socket. Now, that's an easy one to do. You can also add in something like pigeon, where again the head of my humerus, or the head of my femur, can easily fall into the backside of the socket, and that's kind of my my hip alignment with being retroverted. So here you can easily let the ball sort of sink in the backside of the socket in sort of pigeon pose. Okay, so we've seen this one before, kind of in yoga and things like that, but you want to hold this again try to make sure your spine's flat. You want to hold it for about 2 minutes. And these are all going to be stretches you're going to do after the run, all right? Not stuff you're going to do before. But again, think about it. If somebody's external rotation in this direction is excessive, we don't want to be doing these stretches, so I can't stress that enough. Now, here, this is another simple one to add in. Basically, you're just going to bring your knee to your chest, give yourself a big old hug, and just really stretch the side of the hips here, okay? And again, holding it for a couple minutes. Then let the leg relax, rotate over, and then add a little bit more rotation, incorporating mid-back rotation, but also getting the side of the hip. Okay, so 4 easy stretches, basically the figure four, the pigeon pose, and then adding in these guys, the glute hug and the glute rotation.